So, you ready for Christmas? Well, good. I'm glad to see that that's true. I went to the bank the other day, and first thing that the gal behind the glass said was, "You ready for Christmas?" And then I went to Meijer's, and I had to do grocery shopping on Friday, and the cashier said, "You ready for Christmas?" I said, "No." That seems to be the common question that I get asked these days. But that's not the question that I'm going to ask you. It's not important that we're ready for Christmas. It really isn't. The question here is, are we ready for Christ? Are we ready for the coming of Christ in his glory? Because he will come at a time we least expect. Are we ready? And that's an important question. And the question is, well, what do I have to do to get ready? I started on Friday. Finally, I took down all the fall stuff that I had in the house for Thanksgiving. And then I started putting up the stuff for Christmas, but that's a process that will take a few weeks before I will accomplish it. I just like to do it that way. It just somehow you keep building up to something. But that's not what this is about. It's about being ready for Christ. And the question is, what do you have to do to get ready for Christ? For some people, they think, well, I have to become holier. And so I have to pray more. I have to go to church more. I have to do this more. That somehow these are the things that I have to do. I have too much sin in my life. I need to get rid of that, because somehow people equate holiness with being devoid of sin. That, I have to get rid of sin in order to be ready for the Lord. And we should remember what we heard last week in the gospel. When Jesus comes in glory, he's not going to ask us how much we have sinned. He's not going to ask us what we've thought. He's not going to ask us what we believe. Questions are much more direct than that. I was hungry, and you gave me to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. It's not a question of holiness in the sense that many people equate it as if somehow being free from sin is the goal of life, and it's not the goal of Christian life at all. The goal of Christian life is to be filled with the love of God in a way that is real in this world. And that's what it means to be ready for Christ. As Isaiah said, that when he comes, he will find us filled with good deeds. For whatever reason, I always think at this time of year, the story of Tom and Margaret, and I love the story because it makes the point, I think, well. Tom and Margaret had been married for many years and finally found themselves to be empty nesters. Don't worry, that will come at some point. They finally found themselves to be empty nesters. And as they had done so many times, they had rented a cottage up north, and they were on their way up there, and it was just going to be the two of them. The rest of the family couldn't make it. And as Tom was driving, he was thinking to himself about these 2 weeks. And he decided that this would be an opportunity to be the kind of husband he knew he could be. That too much of work interfered, and there were too many other things. And now it was just going to be the two of them, and he was going to focus, at least for 2 weeks, on her. And so he made a point that whenever she said anything to him, that he really paid attention to what she was saying and was engaged in that conversation. That became important. And then what happened is that, they ended up cooking together in the kitchen and cleaning up afterwards together. And, they spent a lot of time just walking along the beach and enjoying the beauty. And he was just very attentive to her. And it was that last night that they were sitting there, and he was reading, but, had kind of drifted off and was thinking about it and thinking, this was really good. This is the kind of person I could always be if I really tried. But he looked across at Margaret, and he saw that she was looking at him with a lot of concern on her face. And he said, honey, what's wrong? She said, you've been very attentive to me these last 2 weeks. What's going on? And somehow she had connected a doctor's visit that she had had just before they went on vacation, that somehow the doctor must have told him something that he didn't tell her. That somehow, she had some dread disease and she hadn't been told, but he was being nice to her because she was going to die. And tears started to come down her cheeks, and he looked at her, he said, oh, honey, no, you're not going to die. There's nothing wrong. He said, no, you're not going to die. I've decided to live the way I know I could live as your husband. I just wanted to be a better husband this week, these last 2 weeks, and I want to make that the pattern now. That's what holiness is, my sisters and brothers. To live the way we know we could live in this world. To be attentive to one another. To be on watch for the opportunities that are there every day to do good for others. To take advantage of those moments when we can reach out and make the life better for another human being. It doesn't have to be in big ways. We don't have to be doing big things. That isn't what God asks of us. But the Lord tells us to watch, not just for his coming and glory, but for the opportunities that are there every day to do good in his name for others. St. Paul says you have the gifts, you have the ability, you can do that. We just have to put that into practice so that when the Lord comes, he will find us filled with good deeds. That's what holiness really consists of. And so we hear the readings today at the beginning of Advent. There's a little thing that, little things mean a lot to me, I guess, but one of the things is that there's a book that every parish gets. It's called an Ordo. And it's a small book, and it tells every day what the readings are for the day, what the prayers are for the day, and other things to look at. If there's a saint today, there's a little description of the saint. But what I love about that book, and it was something that I looked at the other day when I looked at it for the last time. At the very end of the book, it says, here ends another year of grace and favor from our God. And you open up the one for 2024, which started at 4 o'clock last night. And it says, here begins another year of grace and favor from our God. I love that. This is another opportunity, my sisters and brothers, a year of grace and favor, another opportunity to do good, to bring the kingdom of God more fully into this world, not because we are somehow free from sin, but that we brought love into this world, respect and kindness and mercy into this world in a way that builds the kingdom of God. In the end, my brothers and sisters, we're not going to be asked how much we have sinned, but by how much we have loved. And this first Sunday of Advent invites us to watch, to look for those opportunities where we can bring that love, that life, that promise, that hope, that peace, that mercy that comes from God more fully into this world. Watch.